We can go back and look at the data for November in the Greater Lafayette area. And is our real estate market healthy? Is it a buyer's market? Is it a seller's market? Is it a neutral market? I'm a realtor with the Russell team, powered by App Properties. And as you go through all of this data, as you hear all of this, if you're interested in some more information on the current value of your house that you already own, or I'm thinking of buying, what does the market look like in this particular neighborhood right now? Or what is the process, whatever it might be? I'd love to help you out. I'd love to be your local Lafayette real estate resource of choice. Go to the LafayetteReal.com/YouTube, fill out that form, and let's work together on your real estate goals here in the Greater Lafayette area. And with that, we're going to dive into this update. And there's a couple of different sets of data that we can look at. And I'm going to look at one tonight that I don't think that we have looked at in too much depth here on the show, at least recently. And we're going to look at a leading indicators report. And it still has all of the data that we would normally look at, but I am not going to give my verdict right now of what the market is. We're gonna look through about 7 data points here and tell a story with these data points, and then come to a conclusion at the end of what kind of market are we in. And I'd love to hear your feedback about what kind of market you might think that we're in from your perspective. Do you have any insight into what your home value looks like right now? Are you buying or selling? If you're selling, is it maybe taking you a little longer to sell than maybe you expected? If you're buying, do you maybe have a few more options in front of you than perhaps you would have a year or two ago? I'd love to hear your opinions on that. Leave that in the chat or in the comments below. But we're going to first start with listing price. This is the median listing price for all properties across all of Tippecanoe County. And you're going to find as we look through all of this data, that I'm looking at Tippecanoe County. And it's representative of all the county. If you zoom in to a closer area, Lafayette, West Lafayette, the West Lafayette School Corporation, the numbers are going to get smaller. The overall numbers will get smaller, of course, because we're slicing the data into smaller and smaller chunks, but you would find that the overall trends basically follow. Now, if you slice too small, you start getting some outliers, because we slice into like a neighborhood size sample, and instead of looking at 300 homes, you look at 3 homes, then, that you can do the math there. 1 home out of 3 is 33%, whereas it takes 100 homes at the 300 point. Preaching to the choir here. Sorry if I'm doing basic 3rd grade math for you. So let's give this a whirl. Okay, listing price. The 3-week average ending at the end of November was $300,767. The week itself was $319,900. So basically $320,000 was the median list price. This is the price of homes that go on the market and then are on the price that they're currently listed at, whether they've been on the market today for 1 day and this is the price they came out at, or they've been on the market for 6 months and the price has been lowered and lowered. This is the price on this particular day. $320,000 over the last 6 weeks. It's a basically flat trend. And if we look back over the previous calendar year, all the way back to September 30th, the median line basically cuts right through where we're sitting, about the $300,000 mark, somewhere in that range. And like I said, right now we're sitting at just under 320, and it has dipped down a few times back in September, dipped down to 265 back in December, and we would expect the lowest points of the year are going to be in December, January, February, dipped all the way down to 253 and reaching peaks of 380 and indeed even almost 390 in April and back in January. So the market fairly flat over the last 6 weeks, and I would argue from a listing price standpoint, fairly flat over the last year. And then the next data point is one that I like to talk about easily. It's a great conversation starter. It's how many homes are for sale in Tippecanoe County at any given moment. And right now we'll have a look and see that the last week of November, it was 355 spread across all of Tippecanoe County. A slight downward trend over the last 6 weeks at 4.3% down, a 3-week average of 373. But if we look back over the last calendar year, we see this is what feels like actually a relatively healthy growth curve here. This is something that we haven't seen in a number of years. The number that we have talked about in a balanced market here in Tippecanoe County historically over the last 5, 10, 15, 20 years is that there should be about 300 homes for sale at any given time in order to have a balanced market, in order not to give an advantage to buyers or sellers. It's neutral. Anything less than 300 and it's a seller's market. There's not enough homes available, so the buyers have to compete harder. Anything more than 300 and it's a seller's market, and the sellers have to compete more. We have sat down below that 300, and I'm talking down in the 200s and the 100s, and in the winter, one winter it got down to about 83 2 years ago, I believe it was. We've been down there so long, and the county has grown so much in the intervening years that I really think, and I've spoken to some of my colleagues about this, that we think the number is more like 400 homes for sale at any given time in a balanced market. So purely on an inventory standpoint, how many homes are for sale? 355 with a 3-week average of 373. We're above that 300 average that we might have talked about 10 years ago, but we're still not quite up at about that 400. Now, these are not precise numbers that we're talking about. It's not like you hit this point and suddenly, ka-ching, we are in this kind of market. They're guides, and they also are just one data point of many that help tell the story. So from an inventory standpoint, we have been trending up, and in every graph that you'll look at in a real market situation, you're going to see ups and then little dips and then ups and little dips, and indeed you see that we grow and then a little bit of dip in August as everybody returns to school, and then it grows back up, and then we get a little bit of dip here in October, and then we've begun this gradual decline as we head into the cold months. And if you have watched the show more than once, you have heard me tell you that real estate is tied to the weather. The colder that it is outside, the less homes that are sold and that are for sale. And my joke is, I've moved in a snowstorm. I never ever want to do it again. Do you want to do it? People always have to move, but if you have the option to not move in November, December, January, you're not doing it. It's an oversimplification. It's not just the weather. There are major holidays. You've got Halloween and Thanksgiving and Christmas and Hanukkah and New Year's and Kwanzaa, and I'm missing many celebrations, but it is a giant time for people getting together and celebrating with friends, with family, with those that are close to you, or just going home and vegging and doing nothing and getting away from people. So it's expected that we would have that dip here, and we will continue to have that dip probably into like the January, February time period where we expect to start see it swing up a little bit. Now, as I have said many times to both clients, watchers, and on the show, it is harder to peel apart what are greater macroeconomic impacts on individual data points versus the big seasonal things that we expect to see. And there are people who have PhDs in economics that could explain theories to you and tell you pull this data apart this way, and this represents the seasonal adjustments, and this represents, and they're right. But if you're a fan of The West Wing, President Josiah Bartlett has a Nobel Prize in economics, and I know that it's a fictional show, but he basically makes the joke something along the lines of ask 3 different economics professionals or professors, and you're going to get 3 different answers, that it is a guess. And that's an oversimplification, but we will see. That is just me saying that, like, we'll see. This downturn, and it's not a downturn, this general gradual sloping off in the data is expected. What will it look like in February, March, and April? Hopefully it continues to get better, but we will find out. The next data point that we're going to look at is pending contracts. This is, I saw the house, I liked it, I wrote the offer on it, and the seller accepted the offer, and now we're working on getting to the closing table. Most closings happen in 30 days. Some take a little bit longer. If you're paying cash, you can do it in a week, give or take a few days. But last week it was 30 new contracts went pending. The 3-week average, 37. The 6-week average trend is flat. And again, if we look at the graph here, while it got really peaky and high up here in the summer, what did I just get done saying? Tied to the temperature goes higher and higher. We expect to see that. If we drew a line through the median, it'd probably be right about where we're sitting right now. So we're sitting right at the median of that data point right now. Healthy. The market's doing what the market's been doing. The market's doing what we would expect it to do. I expect the market to continue to behave that way through the coming months until we see some other hints of other things going on. Immediate sales. This is an interesting one that I don't think we have talked about recently. Percent of new pending sales under contract in 3 days or less. You put your home for sale on a Friday and you have an accepted offer by Sunday. In West Lafayette specifically, this has been the median. 3 days, 2-3 days over the last couple of years. It has drifted up. We are looking at the data set for all of Tippecanoe County right now. Last week, it was 3.7% of all contracts went under contract, of sales went under contract in 3 days or less. The 3-week average is 11%. We're trending down. If we zoom back here to May 12th, it was 51%. Half of all homes went under contract in 3 days or less across all of Tippecanoe County back in May. So being down to 3.7%, that's pretty low in comparison to what the data has been. So this one might be of a little bit of concern, but I don't think it is, because that 50% is really an abnormally high number, and houses should not sell that fast. Now, as a home seller, and if you're asking for a high price and somebody gets it, great, good for you. But it does make it really tough for buyers to have time to see homes and make informed decisions on which ones they want to make an offer on, what kind of work it might need, what kind of investment it might need if it ticks all of the boxes for you. Houses selling a little bit slower in and of itself, not a bad thing. I love the analogy that my colleague Stacy uses, that we were speeding, we were in a speed zone, we were doing 80 miles an hour in a 60, and now we're doing 70 miles an hour in a 60. And we continue to trend down overall. Again, tune back in March, April. Let's see if that goes back on. Another one that I don't think that we have looked at in the last couple of months at Lafayette Live is price drops. And this, I think, is one of the most telling data points that we're going to look at tonight through our entire update of the Greater Lafayette real estate market is price drops. This is, I put my house on sale for the price that my real estate professional advised me to by doing the research and figuring out what the market is saying my home is currently valued at, or it's the price I thought I would just go and ask because I wanted to get that price sort of thing. I'm a realtor with the Russell Company powered by App Properties, and as you can tell, I have opinions. And if you would like my help, if you value my opinions because you are tuning in here on At Lafayette Live in the Greater and the Lafayette Real, go to the LafayetteReal.com/YouTube and fill out the form, and we'll work together on your housing questions here in the Greater Lafayette area. Whether it's you got a question about how does all this work, how do I buy a house, or you've got a home and you'd like a value on it, or you want to downsize or upsize, or if you're coming into the area from elsewhere, from somewhere around the United States or indeed around the country, go to the LafayetteReal.com/YouTube, fill out the form, and I'll get right back to you. And you'll hear from me. I want to be clear. When you talk about a lot of these real estate people that are out there, you get sent to some virtual assistant, you get sent to some AI. No. If you contact me, you get me. This guy. Okay? All right. But we're going to look at price drops. I'm just going to bring up the graph. You ready? If you're into the data and you've been looking closely at it, take a look. The last week of November, we had price drops on 55.3% of all listings across Tippecanoe County. Than half. That number is large. It is a big number. I'm not saying it's the biggest number ever, but over the last few years, let's call it since about 2019, 2020, that number is pretty darn big. And if we were to pull apart one data point and just look at it by itself and judge a market, this might be one where we go, oh, there's something here. I'm not suggesting that we do that. That would be a terrible idea. Don't pull apart one data point to prove your point. All of this data works together to tell an entire story, but this, in combination with days on market going up, does begin to tell the story of a cooling market beyond seasonality. I can get offers accepted under asking price now is what this means. How much under asking price? Not a whole lot. We're gonna look at that in just a moment here. But last week, 55.3%. That trend is basically flat over the last 6 weeks, and indeed over the last 3 weeks as well. But if you look back, it was 40% back in September, but never got to a peak of more than about 46% until we hit a run-up starting in about late July, early August this year, and indeed got down to a low of just 1/3, which is indeed actually higher than I would have thought if you would have asked me things. So price decreases. So does that mean? So that might mean that if the perfect house comes on the market today, we're going to do our research, we're going to do our due diligence, we're going to do our homework and figure out, did this seller and their agent price the house correctly? And if they did, is there enough pressure on the market that we can negotiate an even lower price? Now, maybe not. And that price adjustment, that offer, might not be as drastic as you think, but 53%, that's pretty high. Overall days on market, median days from listing to pending across all properties in Tippecanoe County in through the end of November. The last week of November, it was 41 days. The 3-week average, 35 days, and we are seeing an upward trend here. And I just want to draw your eye to the bottom of the line here, where from May 3rd to about June 9th, it was 3. It lived down here at 3 and certainly hovered around 10. And then it has started this climb out, and it's been hovering around 20. Passed through the 30 mark and now is approaching the 40 mark. Again, the sky's not falling. I'm not Chicken Little. One data point, data that is drifting more towards something resembling a normal market, a balanced market perhaps. But 7, 14, 21, 28, 35, 42. Doing some math on my fingers here. Yeah, that's right. 6 weeks is the median days on market from listing to pending. So it's going to take you 6 weeks from the day that you put your house on sale until you get an accepted offer in half of cases or more. Now in half of cases, it's less than that. But again, this is the median number. So if you have 100 homes that sold, this is the median is number 50. It's not a total of a bunch of them and then divided. That's a mean. This is a median. This is the halfway point. So you could have had one that was at 41 days and then a whole bunch that were 10, 10, 10, 5, 1, 0. 41 days, but then you also could have had 50, 50, 50, 60, 80, 300. Those do exist. There are some pretty unique cases there, but that's days on market. It's definitely going up. It's something to pay attention to. Is it something to be scared of? No, it's just something to pay attention to. Percent of list price. Hey, I put my house on the market. My real estate professional, my agent, my broker gave their opinion and thought that the house would sell for this, and so that's what we should list it for. But I didn't listen to them, and I went for a higher number. Did we get that number? Did the actual offer price come in at the list price? Indeed, in the last week of November, 96.6%, so 3.4% off of average, a flat trend over the last 6 weeks. And if you look at the graph, I mean, at its lowest, it's 94% way back here. There's this little tick of data that's an outlier in the week of October 27th. So we'll throw that one away for now and just say that about 94% has kind of been the low. And if you look at this line, it's 95, 96, 97, 98, even up to 99%. So we're talking 2, 3, 4% off of asking price. That is seller's concessions to the buyer, whether that is to knock a couple points off of the interest rate, whether that is to sweeten the deal with some allowance for some new carpet or flooring or some work on a roof or whatever. At the end of the day, the asset is the house. And whether you have a whole lot of payments left on your house or it's fully paid off, the buyer is assuming all of that into their interest going forward. Lowering that price just a few percent does indeed help them get over the line on some of these smaller things in the light of $2 and $3 and $4 and $500 and indeed $700,000 and $800,000 homes. When you can take a few $1,000s off, that few $1,000s will go buy you an air compressor for your air conditioner or a new floor for the dining room and kitchen sort of things. So nothing to report here, basically. This is business as usual on percent of list price. People are basically getting what they asked for minus about 3%, and that is what we have been seeing, and that is what I expect to continue seeing for a while, at least until the data says otherwise. So that's our look at the Greater Lafayette real estate market here at the beginning of December with data through November 30th. What do you think? Give me your opinion in the chat and in the comments. I'd love to hear your feedback on how you're feeling about the value of your home. Neighbors in your neighborhood, or are they buying and selling? Are they leaving? Are they getting what they want for their house? Are people feeling satisfied, or are they just feeling like, I'm just glad it's done? So drop a comment, let me know. Go to thelafayettereal.com/YouTube and fill out the form, and let's work together on all things real estate here in the Greater Lafayette area.